Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. Goodbye, Empoli, Lecce, Cagliari, all these guys in the bottom half of the table. And hello, Milan, Atalanta, Inter, Roma, Lazio in the Coppa Italia, Torino again in the Serie A, who have been starting well this season, Udinese as well, who are normally in the right-hand side of the table, have also started well this season. So we have a lot of very difficult games coming up over the next few weeks, guys. And thank God that Conte was able to accumulate the points that he's accumulated in the first bit of the season, because it's unquestionable that we're going to drop some here and there. There's going to be some draws. I hope we're going to stay undefeated, but we have to be realistic, right? And this points gap that we have is so important. But before we talk about all that, the whole sort of month and a half that awaits us, I just want to focus our attention on Milan. And actually, I want to give you guys a little bit of context going into this game from the Milan side, because you might hear all over social media, it's not fair that our game against Bologna got cancelled because Reindeers and Theo Hernandez will be disqualified and they will not play against Napoli. It's been rigged, it's been blah blah. You will hear Milan fans say a lot of this stuff, and I just want to put some perspective on everything and give you guys context in case you run into those things on social media. So here we go. So what happened, guys? Bologna-Milan got cancelled. Why? Because of extremely bad weather in the Emilia-Romagna region. As you guys may know, Italy has been suffering massively from torrential rain, landslides. It's been destroying cities and communities, and it seems to be happening almost on a yearly basis in the Emilia-Romagna region, which is where Bologna is from. Now, in this sort of context, it's completely normal to cancel large sporting events. If you think about it, last year, the Imola F1 Grand Prix got cancelled when floods happened in the exact same region. And trust me, guys, an F1 race that cannot be recovered at any other point in the calendar season is much more important than a random Bologna-Milan of Serie A, which can be recovered at any point throughout the next 6 or 7 months. Also, maybe 10, 15 million people might be watching a Bologna-Milan, if I'm being generous, all over the world, whereas an F1 race, that's huge amounts of money. Hundreds of millions of people watch every single F1 race. It's the equivalent of a quarterfinal of a Champions League in terms of, I think, amount of people that tune in. And so if they were willing, for public safety reasons, to cancel an event as large as an F1 race in that region, then of course it makes sense that they would cancel Bologna-Milan and just postpone it until things get better. And why are Milan fans complaining about this? Is it because they have no heart and they don't care about the struggles of the people of the Emilia-Romagna region? Well, maybe some, probably, there's assholes everywhere, man. But I think the majority of them are just thinking about their own team, right? They're thinking from the Milan perspective, and they're thinking, right, because this game has been postponed, that means that Theo Hernandez and Reindeers, who had to serve suspensions from red cards, they have to then carry that suspension into the Napoli game, and this is a huge problem. Why couldn't we have just played this game behind closed doors? Look, there's a few reasons why you can't play this game behind closed doors, guys. Number one, it's a huge revenue loss for Bologna. All those tickets that would have been sold had the game been postponed to a later date or played on that day, that would go missing if you played this game behind closed doors. And the Serie A has to protect its clubs from such huge revenue losses. I mean, we're talking a few million here for every game. That's the difference between a team potentially recording profits or losses at the end of the season, right? The margins are so low, and we're not in a position as a league to just throw away money like that, right? So I think it's the right call to protect Bologna in this case. Number two, guys, had you played this game it would have been played behind closed doors, and all the TVs around the world would have shown a picture of the Serie A, which we don't want to see, right? We want to see games that have fans, that have atmosphere, that lift the environment up. I mean, you guys watch Napoli games, you'll see the camera panning to the stadium, and you'll see everybody, singing and clapping, and you hear them in the background, and that's what you want to tune into as a fan. And in this day and age where it's so hard to sell the product, it's so hard to sell the Serie A product above the Premier League, above La Liga. I mean, did you guys see Barca against Real yesterday? That Bernabeu looked incredible with those fans and everything. And I mean, if you're a Barca fan, you'll have enjoyed to see their faces after the 4-0. If you're a Real Madrid fan, at least you enjoyed watching that stadium at the start of the game. It's a beautiful place, I think. And people tune into that. They tune into that. They tune in to see a spectacle also on the stands, not just on the field. And I think those two things are actually very closely related because one affects the other. And if you showcase a game without any fans, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting the league, and it's subconsciously, or not subconsciously, but it will have an effect later down the line also on Milan itself and all the other clubs, because guess what? Sponsors are not going to put in the money, right? Sponsors would rather you postpone the game and have it played out when there's a bit more of an atmosphere, right? No sponsor is going to want to put in money into the league if the league is just going to start playing games behind closed doors. We don't need to be doing that. There's all the time in the world to make up for this game. Then, yes, Milan fans can feel a bit hard done by Theo Hernandez and Reindeers missing the Napoli game. Two very important players, especially Theo. I think he plays super well against Napoli, and he'll be missing. Now, I have two things to say about this. Number one, why are you getting so many red cards? Milan have gotten a red card in each of their last 3 games in the Serie A. So this is entirely on you guys. I mean, yeah, you didn't know or you didn't expect this to penalize you against a direct rival like Napoli. Man, control yourself. Number one. Number two, think of however many more red cards you might have gotten against Bologna had you played, because that is what the trend is telling us. It's telling us 1 red card per game. Imagine Pulisic or Leao got a red card against Bologna. So we saved you from that. And another thing about missing that game, look, Milan have been playing a lot of games this season because they've had both the Serie A and the Champions League. And I think actually having a bit of a break, I think it will do wonders for them. I think a lot of their players will have been thinking, I'm glad we didn't play against Bologna, because we gotta step up against Napoli. We gotta put in our 100%. And Bologna is not an easy team to play against. They're fighting this year to recover all those points that they've lost so far. They'll have put in a fight at home against Milan. And, the Milan players will come into this Napoli game a lot more rested than they would have otherwise. So I see this actually as, on the one hand, yeah, you lose Reindeers and Theo for the game. On the other hand, you have everybody else available, fit and ready. It could be a nice trade-off. We'll see what happens, right? I think it would have not been so relevant had the game happened on the weekend, then you would have had a week of rest anyways. But because this game is happening on a Tuesday night, midweek, there's a big difference between these Milan players resting 2 days or 3 days versus resting 1 week. So, I mean, it's something that I think Napoli have benefited a lot this year. We have not been playing the Champions League. We've been able to rest in between games, and that has definitely helped us achieve what we've achieved so far this season. So, Milan can walk into this game knowing that they're a bit more rested. So for me, I think that is super important, and I think it balances out the argument. So if all these Milan fans are crying beforehand, guys, there's pros and cons to this, and I'm sure if it was the other way around, if the San Siro would have been inaccessible for flooding and all that, you would not have wanted this game to go forward. You would have tried to postpone this game. Now, before we wrap this video up, I'll just say, look, Milan have not had the best season so far. They started off very shaky with the new coach Fonseca. You know, they started off on the wrong foot against Torino in their first game of the season. Then they had this whole issue with actually Theo Hernandez and Leao, where when there was a cooling break, the whole team cuddled around Fonseca, hearing some instructions from him, and those two guys were completely separated from the team. So there was a bit of a drama there of, do Leao and Theo Hernandez like Fonseca? Do they not like him? Fonseca has not been playing Leao as much as previous coaches have been, and you know, things are not maybe so serene in the Milan dressing room and upstairs with the board, and Zlatan has also had some moments, but they've turned up in their big game against Inter. They won a derby after God knows how many years against Inter. They won 2-1. They turned up, they got that goal in the final minutes, right? So this is a team that doesn't die in big games. It's a team that will play until the very end. They've got a lot of pride. They want to show that they're not a dead team this year, and so Napoli have to be extremely careful. It is not the same Milan team of 3 years ago, but this is a Milan team that still, for big games, shows up. So guys, I mean, it's going to be a struggle out there. We're going to have to really give it our best at the San Siro. It's a difficult place to play. You know, regardless of how well Inter or Milan do, playing at San Siro is never easy. Even at the days of Maradona, the days of our Scudetto, you know, with Spalletti, we would go to the San Siro, and either against Milan or against Inter, we would struggle, right? I mean, with Spalletti, for example, we lost at the San Siro against Inter in the year of the Scudetto. So not easy games up there. So I just want to, you know, put that as a warning, right? But if we do manage to win, then that will send, I think, a very big statement, and it will increase our gap to Milan in such a way that I think it will start to cut off Milan a little bit from the title race, let's say, because now, you know, whether you like it or not, whether you like this pressure or not, Napoli is in charge of the title race at this moment in time. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked this video. And if you did, then please smash that like button and subscribe. Think about becoming a member if you want. Link is in the description on how to do that. And as always, guys, Forza Napoli sempre. See you guys Tuesday night. Ciao.